These properties are virtually unsellable. We also need to make sure that this government pays equal attention to the existing leaseholders that are currently trapped.
New leasehold flats in England and Wales are set to be banned under the latest government plans to reform home ownership. Under the current leasehold scheme, third-party landlords, known as freeholders, own the building, and a leaseholder buys the right to occupy a flat within it for a fixed time period. Vicky Spratt is the housing correspondent at the newspaper and author of Tenants, the people on the front line of the housing emergency. Thanks for coming on, Vicky. Describe to us, if you would, the sort of average experience, I know it's hard to, but the experience of a leaseholder and the situations they find themselves in as a result of this feudal arrangement.
Yeah, I mean, where to start? I think leasehold homeowners are subjected to what I can only describe as a complete mess and a scam masquerading as a system of home ownership. You know, I've spoken to people who have got repairs that need done on their buildings that have not been done, and they are having back and forth with their freeholders about urgent repairs while leaks come through their ceiling. There are people who are still stuck in buildings that are not fire safe post-Grenfell because their freeholders don't want to pay for work to be done. There are people who contact me regularly who are being charged all sorts in the name of a service charge, but when you actually look at their bill, it doesn't really seem to make any sense. Even just very recently, I spoke to somebody who had been accused of not paying her service charge to her freeholder, but they'd only sent her one letter which never arrived, and then immediately, after a month, sent it to solicitors and caused her to incur legal costs. I mean, who sends a letter in 2025?
Do you, Vicky, the previous government wanted to ban new leaseholds, but there exists a problem for millions of people currently, about which the government is doing what?
Well, the previous government, actually, Housing Secretary Michael Gove wanted to transition from leasehold. And let's just quickly outline what leasehold is, because I realise I haven't done that, which is you buy a flat in a building, you own that flat, but you do not own the building, and you only own that flat for the period of time specified in your lease. So that is what leasehold is. And your freeholder, who is effectively your landlord, sort of like a third-party landlord, can charge you a service charge for living in that building and ultimately is responsible for the upkeep of it.
I was once told, Vicky, when I was looking at doing this and I was purchasing what I thought was a freehold, turned out to be a leasehold, I wasn't going to be allowed my cat. I thought, well, I'm not paying to come here if I can't bring my cat. It's a disgrace.
Absolutely. It's
my house.
You're basically a glorified renter, but you are not only paying rent and a service charge, you're paying a mortgage. That's what leasehold is. So what the Tories had wanted to do with Michael Gove in charge of housing was transition to something called Commonhold, which is where when you buy a home, you actually own it. If it's in a block of flats, you all own a share of the building. That got watered down by Rishi Sunak's number 10. And what Labour pledged to do during the election campaign was carry out that transition to Commonhold. I interviewed Housing and Planning Minister, now Minister, Matthew Pennycook, at the time last summer, and he said that's what he would do. That's exactly what they are now saying they would do. They are fulfilling their manifesto commitment to.
And let's see how many people it can help out. Vicky, thank you very much indeed. Vicky Spratt, housing correspondent at the newspaper. Her book is called Tenants, the people on the front line of the housing emergency. And I wonder whether the description of leasehold applies to you and you found yourself just in a complete disaster. Ever-increasing costs on maintenance of a property that you thought was yours, even though it wasn't, but you thought you were buying something that would be, quotes, yours, and actually it turns out they'll rip the floor from underneath your feet if you don't pay the service charges and if you have an animal in there, even though you thought it was your property.